The first sign that Earth was no longer alone came on a Tuesday morning when every screen on the planet flickered and went dark. Dr. Kim Jun was drinking his third cup of coffee in his small laboratory in Seoul when his computer monitor suddenly displayed something impossible. A face that was not quite human stared back at him with golden eyes that seemed to burn with inner light. The being's skin shifted between silver and pale gold, and when it spoke, the words came in perfect Korean, English, Mandarin, and every other language simultaneously. Kim Jun's hands trembled as he reached for his phone to call his colleague, but the same face was there too, speaking the same words. "Greetings, little creatures of the third planet," the alien said with a voice like thunder wrapped in silk. "I am Commander Veltar of the mighty Vorthok Empire. For 10,000 of your short years, we have ruled this galaxy without challenge. Your kind has finally grown enough to catch our attention." Across the world, people stopped what they were doing in New York. Taxi drivers pulled over to stare at their radios. In Tokyo, students gathered around their phones in wonder and terror. In small villages, where electricity had only recently arrived, the message appeared on any device capable of receiving signals. Dr. Lee Min was in the middle of teaching her quantum physics class at Seoul National University when every student's laptop displayed the alien commander. She watched in growing horror as Veltar continued his message with casual arrogance. "We have watched you crawling out of your caves, fighting among yourselves, polluting your little world," Veltar said, examining what appeared to be his own fingernails. "Most species like yours are swept away before they can even dream of reaching the stars. But you have shown some small spark of intelligence." The alien paused, and Kim Jun could swear he saw amusement in those burning eyes. "This is why we offer you a choice. It is more than most primitive species receive." In the emergency meeting room beneath the Blue House in Seoul, President Park Soo watched the transmission with his top advisors. General Choi Han, the nation's highest military commander, sat perfectly still, his face carved from stone. They all knew what was coming. "You will face our 7th Fleet in combat," Veltar announced, as if discussing the weather. "If you can prove that you deserve to exist in our galaxy, we will allow your species to continue. If you fail, we will cleanse your world and give it to a more worthy race." The alien's image leaned forward, and somehow every person watching felt as though those golden eyes were looking directly at them. "You have one rotation of your planet to prepare. 24 of your hours. Consider this a gift of time that most species do not receive." Chief Engineer Baewon was working late in his factory outside Seoul, trying to solve problems with the new spacecraft designs, when the message interrupted his calculations. He listened with the growing realization that his experimental ships might be humanity's only hope. "Do not think to hide," Veltar continued with obvious enjoyment. "Do not think to run to other stars. Our ships are faster than light itself. There is nowhere in this galaxy where you can escape our reach." Captain Lim Soo had just finished her flight training session when the message began. She stood with her fellow pilots in the ready room, watching their potential executioner deliver his ultimatum with the casual confidence of someone who had never known defeat. "We broadcast this message to all civilized species in the galaxy," Veltar said, gesturing to beings that humans could not see. "They gather to watch how we deal with upstart primitives. Some have requested that we preserve a few of your cities as museums, to remember what happens to those who grow too bold." Dr. Yang So was in her laboratory studying the quantum effects that might allow faster-than-light communication when the alien's words froze her blood. Her research, which had seemed like pure theory just hours before, might now be the key to humanity's survival. "Your weapons are toys," Veltar continued, his voice filled with ancient authority. "Your fastest ships crawl like insects. Your greatest achievements are nothing compared to what we accomplished when your world was still cooling from its birth." The commander stood, and the image pulled back to show a vast chamber filled with alien technologies that hurt to look at directly. But we are not without mercy. We offer you the honor of combat rather than simple extinction. Face our champions and die with whatever dignity your species can manage. As the transmission began to fade, Veltar's final words echoed across every communication device on Earth. Prepare yourselves, little humans. Tomorrow, you will learn what it means to challenge the Vorthok Empire. We suggest you spend your final hours wisely. The screens went dark, returning to their normal displays, as if nothing had happened, but everything had changed. Humanity now knew they were not alone in the universe, and they had less than 24 hours to prove they deserved to continue existing. In laboratories and military bases around the world, the greatest minds of the human race began working with disparate intensity. They had been challenged by gods who saw them as insects. Soon, the galaxy would learn what insects could do when they refused to die quietly. The clock on Dr. Kim Jun's laboratory wall showed 18 hours and 37 minutes until the alien fleet would arrive. He had not slept, had barely eaten, and his hands shook from too much coffee and too much fear. Around him, the world's greatest scientists worked with the desperate energy of people who knew they were humanity's last hope. His computer screen filled with video, calls from colleagues across the globe. Dr. Yang So appeared from her laboratory in Busan, her usually neat hair now messy from running her hands through it. From Tokyo, Professor Tanaka shared his screen with calculations that made no sense to ordinary minds. From California, Dr. Martinez showed diagrams of weapons that existed only in theory. Our missiles cannot break their shields, reported General Choi Han from the Military Command Center. His voice was steady, but Kim Jun could see the worry in his eyes. We tested our most powerful nuclear weapons against the energy signatures from their transmission. The computers say our strongest bombs would be like throwing stones at a mountain. Dr. Li Min stood before a holographic display in her university laboratory, watching as simulation after simulation showed the same result. Human weapons simply could not hurt the alien ships. Their shields can turn away the radiation from stars, she said quietly. What hope do we have with chemical explosives and metal bullets? But Kim Jun was staring at something else on his screen. The quantum computer he had been working on for 5 years hummed quietly in the corner of his lab. It was designed to link multiple minds together, allowing teams of scientists to think as one organism. He had built it to help solve complex mathematical problems, but now he saw another possibility. We cannot match their technology, he said, suddenly, causing everyone on the video call to stop talking. But we can use what makes us different from them. Captain Lim Su was in the pilot training facility when Kim Jun's message reached the military commanders. She listened as the scientist explained his desperate plan. Instead of building bigger weapons, they would build a network that connected every pilot's mind to every other pilot's mind. They think in rigid patterns, Kim Jun explained to the room full of generals and admirals. Military formations that worked for them for thousands of years. But humans adapt. We learn. We change our minds in the middle of a fight. Chief Engineer Bei Wan understood immediately. In his factory, workers were already converting car assembly lines to build small spacecraft. These ships would be tiny compared to the alien vessels. But if Kim Jun's plan worked, they would think and move as one giant organism. Each pilot will learn from every other pilot's experience. Yang So explained as she worked to modify the quantum communication system. When one ship discovers something about the enemy, every ship will know it instantly. The idea was almost impossible to believe. Dr. Li Min ran calculations on her computers, while Kim Jun's team worked to build the neural interface devices. They had never tested the system on more than 3 people at once. Now they needed it to work for thousands of pilots simultaneously. Park Soo, the president's chief military advisor, watched the construction through satellite cameras. in orbital shipyards that had been building commercial satellites just yesterday. Workers now assembled humanity's desperate answer to the alien threat. 10,000 small fighters, each one barely large enough for a single pilot, but all connected through quantum links that would make them think as one. It might kill them, warned Dr. Yang. So as she tested the neural interface, connecting so many minds together has never been attempted. The human brain might not be able to handle that much information, but pilots were already volunteering faster than they could be trained. Captain Lim Su was among the first to test the system. When the quantum link activated, she gasped as her mind suddenly touched two other pilots in training. She could feel their thoughts, their fears, their determination. For a moment, she was not one person, but three people, thinking together. "It works," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I can feel them. I can think with them." Across the solar system, Commander Veltar watched humanity's preparations through long-range sensors aboard his flagship. The Vorthok fleet moved through space like a pack of metal predators, each ship the size of a city and armed with weapons that could crack planets. "They are building toys," he reported to his officers with obvious amusement. "Small ships with primitive weapons. This will be over in minutes." But he did not understand what he was seeing. The human ships looked simple because they did not need heavy armor or massive weapons. Their strength would come from something the Vorthok had never encountered before: the ability to think and learn as a unified organism while maintaining the creative chaos that made each human mind unique. Dr. Kim Jun watched the final preparations from his laboratory. In a few hours, 10,000 human pilots would link their minds together and face an enemy that had conquered the galaxy. They would fight with weapons that barely worked, and ships held together with hope and desperation. But they would fight with something the aliens could never understand: the refusal to accept that anything was impossible. The Vorthok fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system like dark stars coming to life. Commander Veltar stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Dominion, watching his sensors count 47 massive warships dropping out of hyperspace. Each vessel stretched 4 kilometers, bristling with weapons that could destroy cities with a single shot. "Magnificent," he whispered to his second-in-command, Officer Kethfer. 10,000 years of conquest, and still the sight of our fleet fills me with pride." Through the view screen, Earth appeared as a tiny blue dot in the distance, surrounded by what looked like a cloud of metallic insects. Veltar's tactical display showed him the human response: 10,000 small craft scattered throughout the solar system with no apparent formation or strategy. "They are running in all directions," laughed Kethver, studying the chaotic movement of human ships, like frightened animals when a predator approaches. Veltar nodded with satisfaction. This was exactly what he had expected from a primitive species. No coordination, no real plan, just panic and desperation. "Begin recording for the Imperial Archives," he commanded. "Let future generations see how we deal with upstart primitives, Captain." Lim Su felt her small fighter shake as the neural link activated. Suddenly, her mind exploded with the thoughts and feelings of 9,999 other pilots. For a terrifying moment, she thought she would lose herself in the flood of consciousness. But then the quantum computer helped organize the mental chaos into something beautiful and terrible. She was no longer just Lim Su. She was part of something greater, a collective mind that could think with the creativity of 10,000 individuals while acting as one organism. Through the neural link, she felt the fear and determination of every other pilot, but also their knowledge, their reflexes, their unique ways of seeing the world. Dr. Kim Jun monitored the connection from Earth's command center. His screens showed brain activity patterns he had never seen before. 10,000 human minds thinking together while somehow remaining individual. "Neural link stable," he reported to General Choi Han. "The network is holding. First wave, begin attack, run." ordered Park Soo from the military command center. 1,000 human fighters accelerated toward the alien fleet. Pilot Jung Do led the formation, his mind connected to every other pilot in his group. Through the neural link, he could feel their tactics adjusting in real time. But the alien weapons were beyond anything they had imagined. The Vorthok energy beams cut through the first wave like a hot knife through paper. Jung Do's fighter exploded in a ball of plasma, but in the instant before he died, his mind transmitted everything he had learned about the enemy weapons to the collective consciousness. The frequency of their energy beams, the pattern of their firing sequences, the tiny delay between targeting and shooting. 912 human pilots died in the first 30 seconds. Pathetic, said Commander Veltar, watching the tactical display. Their ships are made of metal and hope. Our weapons tear through them like they are not even there. But Dr. Yang So was watching something different from her monitoring station on Earth. The second wave is performing better, she whispered, studying the data streams from the neural link. They are learning from the first wave's deaths. Captain Lim Su led the second attack, her mind now enriched with the final experiences of the fallen pilots. She knew exactly how fast the alien weapons moved, exactly when they would fire. Her fighter twisted through space in patterns that made no tactical sense, but somehow avoided the energy beams. The second wave lasted 53 seconds before being destroyed. Commander Veltar frowned at his tactical display. The latest human attack had been ... different, more coordinated. Several human ships had actually managed to get close enough to fire their primitive weapons at his shields before being destroyed. Adjust targeting parameters, he ordered his weapons officer. These insects are getting lucky, but luck had nothing to do with it. The third wave incorporated lessons from both previous attacks. Pilot Kong Min twisted her fighter in a corkscrew pattern, while firing at what the collective mind had identified as potential weak spots in the alien shields. She died when a plasma cannon found her ship, but not before transmitting the exact shield frequency she had discovered. Chief Engineer Bei Wan watched from his command vessel as the fourth wave achieved something impossible. They actually damaged an alien ship. It was minor damage, just a few burned sections on the hull, but it was damaged nonetheless. They are learning, he whispered into his communicator. The network is working. They are actually learning how to hurt them, Commander. Veltar stared at his damaged reports in disbelief. The Crushing Fist, one of his escort vessels, showed minor hull damage from human weapons that should not have been able to scratch their paint. How is this possible? He demanded. Officer Kethfer studied the tactical data with growing unease. Sir, the human attack patterns are changing with each wave. They are not following any known military doctrine. Of course not, snapped Veltar. They are primitives. They know nothing of proper warfare. But that was exactly the problem. The humans were not fighting like any enemy the Vorthok had ever faced. They were adapting, learning, evolving their tactics in real time. Each wave of attackers was deadlier than the last. By the seventh wave, Vorthok's shields were failing. The alarms on Commander Veltar's flagship screamed warnings that had not been heard in 1,000 years. His tactical display showed something that should have been impossible. 3 Vorthok dreadnoughts destroyed, their wreckage spinning slowly through the void, where moments before they had been symbols of galactic dominance. Status report. Veltar roared at his bridge crew, his golden skin now pale with shock. The iron dominance is gone, sir, reported his weapons officer, voice trembling. The Star Crusher and World Ender have been destroyed as well. The humans, they are targeting our reactor cores with impossible precision. Captain Lim Su no longer thought of herself as a single person. Through the neural link, she had become part of something magnificent and terrible, a collective mind that encompassed the tactical genius of humanity's greatest military strategists, the scientific knowledge of its brightest minds, and the desperate courage of 10 billion souls who refused to surrender. Her fighter danced through Vorthok weapons fire with movements that violated every principle of physics the aliens understood. She was not just dodging, she was predicting where the energy beams would be before they were even fired. Reading patterns in the alien targeting systems that the collective mind had learned from watching thousands of her fellow pilots die. Behind her flew Captain Park Dong and Lieutenant Kim Yu. Their minds linked so perfectly that they moved like three parts of the same organism. When Park Dong's fighter took damage to its left engine, Kim Yu instantly adjusted his position to cover the blind spot, while Lim Tzu shifted to provide targeting data that compensated for Park Dong's reduced maneuverability. Dr. Kim Jun watched the battle unfold from Earth's command center, his screens filled with data that should not have been possible. The neural network was working beyond his wildest dreams. Each human pilot had access to the combined experiences of every other pilot, living or dead. Wave 15 is beginning its attack run, reported Dr. Yang So, her voice filled with amazement. Neural coherence is at 97%. They are thinking as one organism while maintaining individual creativity. Commander Veltar stared at his tactical display in growing horror. The human fighters moved in perfect coordination, but their attacks were completely unpredictable. His computers could not calculate their next moves because they followed no known patterns of warfare. They are not using any established military doctrine, reported his tactical officer, panic creeping into his voice. Our prediction algorithms cannot process their behavior. Then we will destroy them with raw firepower, Veltar snarled. All ships, focus fire on the largest concentrations of human fighters. But the humans had learned to read Vorthok tactics as easily as a book. The moment the alien ships began to target specific areas, the human swarms scattered and reformed in patterns that seemed random, but were actually based on quantum probability calculations performed by the collective mind. Chief Engineer Beiwan commanded his vessel from the center of the battle, his consciousness linked to every human ship in the solar system. Through the neural network, he could feel the tactical situation as clearly as if he were personally flying every fighter. The aliens were powerful, but they were also predictable. Target the command ship's communication array, he transmitted to the collective mind. If we can blind their coordination, their formation discipline will collapse. 1,000 human fighters immediately shifted course, moving like a school of fish toward the eternal dominion. They came from all directions simultaneously, their weapons targeting the specific systems that the collective mind had identified as critical. Commander Veltar watched in disbelief as his flagship's shields flickered under concentrated fire from weapons that should have been toys. Impossible, he whispered. They are insects, primitives. How are they doing this? Officer Kethfer had no answer. The humans were breaking every rule of space combat that had been established over 10 millennia of galactic warfare. They fought with the precision of machines, but the unpredictability of living chaos. General Choi Han observed the battle from Earth's military command center, hardly daring to believe what he was seeing. The human fighters were not just holding their own against the Vorthok fleet. They were winning. Ships that had conquered 1,000 worlds were being torn apart by pilots who had learned to fly in Earth's atmosphere just days before. How many enemy vessels remain? He asked his aide. 22 functional warships, sir, came the reply. Down from 47 at the start of the engagement. Dr. Li Min monitored the neural network from her laboratory, watching in fascination as 10,000 human minds worked together while remaining individual. Each pilot brought their unique perspective to the collective artists who saw beauty in combat maneuvers, mathematicians who calculated impossible trajectories, poets who found rhythm in the chaos of battle. Captain Lim Su felt the death of Lieutenant Song Min through the neural link, experiencing his final moments as a PLASMA cannon found his fighter. But his death was not meaningless. In his last seconds, he had discovered a weakness in the alien point defense systems that the collective mind immediately shared with every surviving pilot. The aliens fought with the rigid discipline of an empire that had never known defeat, but humans fought with the adaptive creativity that had carried them from caves to stars, guided by the collective wisdom of their entire species. Commander Veltar's fleet was learning too late that there was something in the universe more dangerous than superior technology. The refusal to accept that victory was impossible. The last Vorthok dreadnought died in silence, its massive hull torn apart by weapons that had been mining equipment just 3 days earlier. Commander Veltar's final transmission echoed across the battlefield, a single word that would be remembered by every species in the galaxy: impossible. Captain Lim Su felt the neural link slowly disconnecting as the quantum computers powered down. The collective consciousness that had made her part of something greater began to fade, leaving her alone in her tiny fighter cockpit for the first time in hours. Around her, the surviving human pilots experienced the same strange loneliness, as their minds separated from the vast network that had made them invincible. Of the 10,000 pilots who had begun the battle, only 2,843 remained alive, but they had done something that no species in galactic history had ever accomplished. They had completely destroyed a Vorthok fleet. Dr. Kim Jun sat in his laboratory, staring at screens filled with data that would change everything humanity thought they knew about war, consciousness, and what it meant to be human. His quantum neural network had worked beyond his wildest imagination, but the cost had been terrible. 7,000 human pilots had died to prove that Earth would not go quietly into extinction. Long-range sensors are detecting multiple ships fleeing toward Vorthok space, reported Dr. Yang. So from her monitoring station, it looks like some of their support vessels survived and are running home. General Choi Han stood in the command center, watching as the scattered human fighters began the long journey back to Earth. His face showed no celebration, only the quiet satisfaction of a soldier who had seen the impossible become reality. "Send recovery ships for our pilots," he ordered, "and begin salvage operations on the alien wrecks. We have much to learn." Across the galaxy, alien civilizations that had gathered to watch humanity's expected extinction instead witnessed something that would reshape the balance of power forever. The Vorthok Empire, which had ruled unchallenged for 10,000 years, had been humbled by a species that barely knew how to leave their own solar system. Chief Engineer Bay, one's command ship drifted through the debris field where the flagship had died. His scanners detected technology beyond human understanding, faster than light drives, energy weapons that could crack moons, shields that could deflect the radiation of stars. All of it now belonged to humanity. "Begin data recovery operations," he transmitted to his engineering teams. "Every piece of alien technology is to be studied and understood. Today, we defended our world. Tomorrow we will take our place among the stars." Dr. Li Min worked frantically to preserve the neural link data before it was lost forever. The collective consciousness had lasted only a few hours, but in that time, humanity had experienced something unprecedented: the ability to think as one organism, while maintaining individual creativity and independence. "We cannot replicate the exact conditions of the battle," she explained to President Park Soo during the emergency debriefing. "But we have learned something fundamental about human potential. When we truly work together, we can accomplish anything, Captain." Lim Su's fighter touched down on the orbital platform where she had begun her journey just hours before. She climbed out of her cockpit on shaking legs, her mind still echoing with the memories of her fallen comrades. Through the neural link, she had experienced every death, every victory, every moment of humanity's impossible triumph. "How many did we lose?" she asked the medical team that rushed to help her. "Too many," came the quiet reply, "but not in vain." On the bridge of a fleeing Vorthok scout ship, Officer Kethfer transmitted his report to the Imperial High Command. "The 7th Fleet has been completely destroyed," he said, his voice hollow with shock. "The humans, they fought like nothing we have ever encountered. They adapted faster than we could kill them." The response from Vorthok High Command was immediate and terrifying. All Imperial fleets are to avoid the Sol system until further notice. The humans are to be classified as a level 7 threat species. Dr. Kim Jun composed humanity's message to the galaxy, broadcasting it on the same frequencies the Vorthok had used for their ultimatum just 24 hours before. His words were simple but carried the weight of a species that had looked extinction in the face and refused to blink. To all civilizations within range of this transmission, he said, his voice steady and calm, Earth has answered the challenge presented to us. We stand ready to defend ourselves against any who would threaten our world or our people. We suggest that future invitations to combat be reconsidered very carefully. Across known space, alien fleets that had been moving toward Earth suddenly changed course, giving humanity's solar system a wide berth. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson about underestimating species that refused to accept defeat. In the weeks that followed, human ships equipped with recovered Vorthok technology began their first tentative journeys to nearby star systems. They carried with them the knowledge that survival was not about having the best weapons or the strongest ships. It was about adapting, learning, and never surrendering to the impossible. The universe had asked if humanity deserved to survive. Humanity had answered by proving that survival was not about deserving anything, it was about refusing to die. Quietly, when challenged by those who thought themselves gods, Earth's children were finally ready to claim their place among the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same.